Some of you want to know, what do I do to stay healthy? And what did I do to stay healthy back in the day when I was overcoming cancer on multiple occasions? We're going to go into a range of other areas which are possibly more tangible. Things that I focus on are stress reduction. Yeah. Things that I focus on with the literature to support it is being in a mindset of optimism, one where I do seek. Coming to record another video, and this week we're going with a request. On the last podcast, I asked, are there things that you would like me to go into? Some of you were like, good information, but trim it down a bit, make it more concise. And I do appreciate some of you giving me that feedback. So I've actually done some preparation today, and I would hope that today is more concise. In the past, I've seen this as a wonderful exercise to come on and just talk, to be able to come on and talk and help me crystallize some of my thoughts and also share and start engaging in some discussion, as has already been the case after I've recorded some of these. But some of that feedback has been consistent with what I've been hearing over many, many years. Some of you want to know, what do I do to stay healthy? And what did I do to stay healthy back in the day when I was overcoming cancer on multiple occasions? And this has been something that's come up for me since 2014. So I'm approaching 10 years of answering these questions, and there are still patterns that clearly exist today. And there's things that I do now which I have done on a daily basis and are part of my non-negotiables. So what we're going to be going in today is integrative medicine, the importance of being an active agent, an active participant in your own healthcare, and looking at a number of different modalities that I would say are part of you optimizing your health, optimizing your performance, if you are an everyday person, because we're all fighting through something, right? Someone once said that we're either coming out of the crisis or we're just about to get back into one. And those of you with chronic illnesses would know that can occur on maybe a daily basis or a much more frequent basis than others that haven't had these experiences, whether through themselves or through others. So with that in mind, we're going to start. And we're going to start at a top down and something that I think you'll be able to relate to first. And what we're going to be going at is total adherence to medications. So first and foremost, we're going to be looking at how often do I actually have my pharmaceuticals, and what do I do to keep alive? Because while we're going to be going and you're going to be hearing about the importance of integrative medicine, I am a firm believer, and I have my hand on my heart when I know that I'm not here today without some of the advancements in healthcare, particularly in terms of the oncology services and clinical trials, or one particular clinical trial that I was part of, which is one of the reasons why I'm here today. So I've got a very clear message that adherence to my medication, and I'm sure we'll throw up some statistics now, because one of the biggest differences that can be made in healthcare is just simply having the right prescriptions. And ideally, we're going to be seeing a new range of prescriptions that are going to be coming in and becoming more available over time. But if you have your medicine, have the right dose, have it at the right time. I started OnTracka because I would have to ring a bell. I have something that is called, I've forgotten what the syndrome is. It's terrible that I have. I can't believe I've forgotten. That's what happens when you're live. Anyway, I was taking a chemotherapy for a period of time, and as a result of that chemotherapy, I ended up developing something called Addison's disease, I think it is. And as a result of that, my body doesn't produce cortisol at the levels that it needs to. And so what can happen is there can be, insufficiency in terms of what my adrenal glands produce, which can cause a lot of stress and inflammation into my body, and really it can be fatal if I go for too long without having my medicine. It can also, like many things, become a head game in terms of fatigue, in terms of general coping, when you're not at your best. And a usual medication schedule can help you, to do that certainly helped me. As noted at the start, I'd need to ring a bell. I would need to yell out, have I taken my medicine? I would use to shake the container because I knew that shaking the container would make a rattle noise, which would then condition me to think and group it together with knowledge that I have had it, and then would notify others around me, i.e. back then it was my mum, and more recently it's my wife, that I haven't had my medication, because you would hear it. So move away all that, and OnTracka was one of the reasons why that originated. And as you can see here, over a year, the last 365 days, we've got 94% adherence. So it's not daily. Sometimes it may be that I haven't reported rather than I haven't tracked, but the combination of habit building with the technology and the feedback that I'm getting on a daily basis, I'm virtually taking my medicine all the time. So first and foremost, that's a big tick. Secondly, I enjoy cannabis-based medicines, and I have done since I started halfway through my chemotherapy, the first time I was taking it. And to have a look at the last month, you can look at the last month, and we can show that, and then we can also show what's going on more recently in the last year. But the last year, as you can see, indicates that CBD is the biggest thing that I have. I'm a big believer in high dose or moderate dose, full spectrum CBD. And just to note as well, in terms of shooting this, and I probably should have done this at the start, this isn't advice. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Everybody is different. Everybody has different needs. Everybody comes from different lineage, a different lineage. And there is a diversity in terms of our physiologies. So I'm not saying do this. Be very clear. Speak to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing what has worked for me, and this is not medical advice. What I'm saying is that CBD has been used over on a daily basis. So I'm a very big believer and big user in CBD and the utility of that. And then, as you can see, there are a range of different cannabinoids that also are part of my dosing schedule. There's other things that I use. As you can see, there's a lot of daily supplements that also come part of a program that I do on a daily basis. That has changed over time, some of it, but there are a number of different areas that I would see as non-negotiables. Some sort of functional mushroom in your life. I think there would be a combination of turkey tail, reishi, probably some lion's mane, and maybe some other types of mushrooms to be able to support a range of different functions, including your immune system, including cognitive capacity and general well-being and recovery. Big believer in mushrooms as a supplement, also a big believer in mushrooms in a different circumstance, and we can go into that in another time. My preference is microdosing. Just to be clear, I know that we are part of a larger system, and I see the big benefits of macrodosing psilocybin and a range of different other psychedelics. My sweet spot, and I'm happy to say it, is I have a strong belief in the power of microdosing, and we can get into that another time. The other things you can see there, turmeric, lots of things from Peru. My wife's Peruvian. I've spent a lot of time over in Latam recently. So things like uña de gato. And if you have a look at that in Australia, you'll probably be able to find it for cat's claw. That would be something for a range of different people to consider, particularly oncology patients. I take a tea, again from the Amazon, so from Peru, which is called achiote. And achiote is, again, a natural herb that is reported to have wonderful benefits for prostate. Typically in Peru, if you are a gentleman, a señor, and there is either a risk or there is a diagnosis of prostate cancer, and everyone will start drinking that tea. The way that I approach that is that I am a high risk for everything still. So I try to be as preventative as possible. And I see my medicines, I see my food, I see other holistic exercises that you will continue to hear about, all part of what I consider treatment. Yeah, the treatment intensity varies if you are actively in chemo, radio, or any other form of oncology treatment, or you're working in other treatments for potentially other diseases, medical conditions, or mental health where you're actively receiving treatment, a pill can be very helpful, as indicated at the start, but you need to take control of your own health to your greatest capacity, and being mindful that there are invisible illnesses and not everyone is able to take it to their full capacity always, but you can push and you can try. And I think what I was able to do throughout 716 consecutive days of chemotherapy indicated the need to push past what I thought was possible, because I knew I was going to be nauseous. I was going to be nauseous all the time. I was going to be in pain all the time. I was going to be in fear all the time. So how was I going to take myself out of that state and bring me to a different level? Sitting down wasn't going to do that for me. Some days I would need to visualize a cross and cross that off, but other days I just needed to get up, even though my body and my mind said that wasn't possible. I was going to be nauseous. I was going to be fatigued. At least I could go back to bed with a level of accomplishment and a knowledge that I had worked my body. And that is a big factor when we're looking at getting there. And we're going to kick straight into that. And it's different areas that I focus on. So while we're going to go into a range of other areas which are possibly more tangible, things that I focus on are stress reduction. Yeah. Things that I focus on with the literature to support it is being in a mindset of optimism, one where I do seek and seek opportunities rather than agitation. So that enables me to be in a situation where I can see the cup half full, or I want to overflow that cup. Yeah. So I want to be in a position of optimism as much as possible. Also being mindful that, and I can reference a blog that I wrote many years ago about a happiness trap. You do not want to be in a fake happy trap. That's not what it's about, but you can be optimistic. And there is very good research out of Sydney University, a professor called Professor Donald. I'm not having a good day with names when I'm doing this live. I will reference him below, and I'm sorry for my memory. But he was able to demonstrate very good outcomes in terms of oncology patients and the need for optimism. Spirituality is something that has increasingly been playing a role in my life. There is an individual by the name of Paul Chek, very big in the fitness and nutrition circles. Many years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, he identified as spiritual health as the 6 key core area of health. And I think there's wonderful reasons why that's the case, when we see that at times you need to throw it to something higher, and it doesn't need to be God or Jesus or Allah. It could be the universe, could be Buddha, whatever it is for you. But there can be an importance in connecting with a higher entity, and that's not really talked about these days at all. But if you're going to get advice to be like, what do you do? I'm going to tell you what I do. The other thing that is very hard to measure is love, right? So when I got diagnosed for that 3rd time, what can you do? Right? You've been on treatment nonstop every day for 2 years. They say you're going to die, comes back, you don't die, it comes back again. And they're like, there's nothing possibly we can do. There's no more treatment options. There's nothing. What do you do at that time? And the decision that I made was that, one, every night when my head would hit the pillow, I would ensure that I had made good decisions that day, that I had integrity that day, that I'd been honest that day, and I didn't have any regrets. In many ways, that just like reduced a huge load from my shoulders. And the other thing that was very important was love. How do I love myself? How do I love others? How is their forgiveness? How is their gratitude? But importantly, how can you be guided by love, not fear? How you make sense of that is up to you. Journaling, you can do that inside of OnTracka, or pen and paper. As you can see, still I like to do, and scribble is a wonderful way to try to construct and collate some of your thoughts. I'm also a very good ear. So if you're listening to this and you can see that I am rambling, and I know some friends are going to be like, mate, I told you not to do this. If you are still listening, I appreciate it. There's just a lot that we can get through, and I will try to make this a little bit more condensed as we move forward. To recap thus far, we're talking about the importance of medication adherence. We went into different CBD, cannabinoids, and supplements that I have and continue to take. And then we went into areas which are more difficult to measure. Yeah. And we're talking about mindsets. Yeah. A mindset, a state. And then we talk about other dimensions such as spirituality and love, and being able to tap into them as areas or objects that can pull you closer to your desired outcome, which is to feel better and live better for longer. Okay, let's get practical, real practical, and finish up with a few things which are now increasingly common, particularly now when I'm coming back to Australia. When I left beforehand and we were doing ice baths in the backyard, it's a lot more sophisticated now, and there's very good reason to do that. So daily I do cold therapy. I have done that for many years. There are some exceptions, like when my body is awfully unwell, I try not to push it to the extremes. But again, I'd be averaging 95% of the time, which for me, 9 out of 10 times over a year, you get that compounding benefit. Cold therapy is essential. There's so much evidence to support the efficacy of this in terms of improving and changing your immune system and supporting you to feel better in your life and with your mental health. And so with that, there is enough there to then say, oh, temporary discomfort, temporary comfort, I am going to give a lower priority to bearing the discomfort or working through the discomfort to get the longer term benefit, and attaching in the belief in why you're doing the process to then support greater outcomes through, again, the placebo effect, which is well known and accounted for in all randomized clinical trials, which is the gold standard in modern medicine. The other thing is breath work. Generally, they come as a combo, cold therapy and breath work, and very much brought to life by a crazy but well-respected Dutchman by the name of Wim Hof, who you may have heard about. There's so much you can find out about him and his breathing methods, but that has just opened up so many different pathways. People have got their own tweaks on different breathing exercises. His is one that I have used and I believe in, so I would I won't recommend, but I would say that is a good place to start. Yoga and other forms of breath work can also be very important for getting on your journey, but you need to be doing something on a daily basis. They say if you don't have time to meditate, you should, for 10 minutes, you should be meditating for 20. So fit it in. Breath work, I believe, is a better option. If anyone out there is trying to promote their health, it is more active rather than passive. Sometimes when you quiet and write down for meditation rather than focusing on breath or actively working through your breath, turning off and turning down everything can actually intensify some of the noise, the fears, and there can be a time to do that. But also, if we're just trying to absorb a whole heap of content today, maybe that isn't the best place to start. Exercise is a non-negotiable. You should be doing strength and conditioning training, and you should be doing some cardio for your heart health. There's no doubts about it. You should be moving. Rest isn't the way to go always. It is encouraged to push through, get the blood moving, build muscles. Don't let them get to a situation where you're not using them and you buy into that story that can be very prevalent in your head about not pushing forward. You will always feel better doing exercise. And again, there's a whole range to exercise. It doesn't mean you need to be always going to the gym. It's finding out what sort of movement is best suited for you on your different days and different capacities. When again, I had cancer and I was on chemotherapy and I was as nauseous as you get, I would jump onto the floor or roll myself onto the floor after I was medicated, right? After I had used, and during the times I would use CBDA on a daily basis, and I would ensure that I had a dose of that was high enough to support me to get onto the floor, do something called yin yoga, which is a bunch of really slow moving exercises. Fasting is essential, I would say. Again, very important. What I do is a quarterly fast. I do a quarterly fast, which entails a water fast for 72 hours, and that acts as a cellular reboot. And I have done that now since 2015, 2016, and it's part of another non-negotiable in my life, but it is a much longer format. The other one is nutrition. How you eat is important. I don't mind. It's my body telling me, settle down. I don't mind, and I don't have a preference. If you're plant-based, if you're keto, if you're carnivore, if you are paleo, if you're gluten-free, if you're the slow carb diet, I don't know. There's so much that is out there, and so many people are going to be saying one thing or the other. Find something that you agree with, that you believe, one is practical to your life, one that you have the discipline to maintain, stick to it for a period of time. Your body will tell you, your body will give you data back. Is this working or not? That is a super unfast way of giving a summary of some of the things that I do on a daily, weekly, and a longer basis. And I think it's very helpful to be able to show these longer term trends, because anything with health is the compounding benefit. Very good books to read include this one from James Clear. It is highly recommended to get you started or continue on your path. And one of the best ways to think about it is, it doesn't matter if you get off track. The most important thing is getting yourself back on track. So it's either that day, i.e. later today, I am going to do, or tomorrow I'm going to start. Don't wait till Monday. Don't wait till next year. The best thing to think about is everyone gets off track. How do I get myself back on track, and start slowly and build the habits around it? And the results at times can then start to speak for themselves. And it is quite wonderful to be able to share all the different changes that occur, and there's much more that is available, obviously, through your OnTracka. This has been a very different approach for today. I hope you've got some value, some content out of it. If there's someone that you think could benefit from listening to this, please share it with them. I have tried to go over things very fast, and I'm still new to this format, so I haven't probably given you the best instructions. So if you do have any questions, please let me know below, or let me know via email, or any available options. I am here to help. So please get in touch with me and ask me some questions, and I can provide further information or details to anything that you have heard today. Once again, my name is Chad Walkaden, and I am the founder and product CEO at OnTracka, and we are on a mission to be able to help improve people's lives and the available treatment options that they have. If that interests you, or anything you've heard that interests you, go check it out, OnTracka.com. OnTracka on both the Apple and Play Store. Going to finish up. Happy weekend. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.